Alright, quick heads up before we start. We're going to be working with materials here. So for this tutorial, you guys are going to need the material for your weapon. That's on your weapon. So for my weapons, which is the first person weapons pack, they have a master material. And from this master material, we have material instances, which are these. Okay, so for each weapon. Now you could just have one, but you know, in this pack they have different instances for different weapons, and you know, these are the materials we're going to be using. So let's click on one of these material instances. All right, now in this tutorial we're going to be using this parameter here, base color, to change the color of the material, as you can see. Okay, and we're also going to be changing, we're going to be also using the you know, RGB channels for our sliders. And one more thing we're going to be using, and that's let's see if one of these have it. It's just another parameter, which is a scalar value, and that will be pattern tiling. Okay, so we're using material instances, and they have to have a value. So as you can see here, the materials that I have for these weapons, you know, they have lots of values I could change, and you know, all I would need to do is just, you know, add more slider bars or buttons to change these values. But for now, we're just going to be changing the pattern and the color. We're not going to, you know, change some of these here. We could even, you know, change the texture, the pattern, but we're not going to be doing that. But the main thing, like I said, is to have material that has a material instance that you could change. So you would definitely be needing that for this tutorial here. Alright guys, before we move on to finishing up the attachments, we're just going to go over something we forgot, and that's being able to switch colors on the weapon. So as you can see here, I already recorded a few videos that I did over the past few days that ended up being corrupted. So we're gonna try this again, and I'm just gonna stop between in every few minutes just to make sure that doesn't happen, or you know, try to prevent it from happening. So you know, I can stitch the videos together. But let's get started here. So let's see if we can see what's going to happen. So as you can see, we added a change color button here, so we could, you know, do a random change button, or whatever the case may be. Alright, so let's get started. First, you to your widget switcher here, you want to add this canvas, and inside that canvas we're going to add these 4 bars, these sliders. We're going to call one is for the pattern, and the other 3 is for the red, green, and blue channels on the color. Alright, and just add you know, little text below them, just for, you know, visualization or whatever. But then we add another button that we're gonna call random color, and that's going to be a button to switch the random colors. right? And then we have a scroll box. So we have a scroll box here, and this one is going to be horizontal. Okay, and this is where we're going to add our materials. So all the different materials from our weapons that our weapon has or can change, we're going to add them here. And another scroll box on the side. And I put this in a vertical box because I have the text called parts up here, but you know, it's a scroll box, another scroll box, and this one is going to be vertical, and this is going to be for the different parts on the weapons. Now we're going to create a widget that that should actually be called a material widget, but we're going to create this, and this is pretty much just a button we could click and it has an image. Alright, so yeah, once you got that going, and make sure you add a back button that's gonna, you know, be able to switch back to the other, back to our attachment screen. All right. Now it's very important for you guys to make sure that this canvas is on our widget switcher, so we could actually, you know, switch to it from this attachment screen here when we hit the change color button. Right now, once you guys got that going, just create a new widget. Alright, and we're going to call that one a material widget. Mine is called color widget, but you know, you guys can name it whatever you want. Alright, and in there we clear the canvas or replace it with a size box, and the width and height is 150, 150. You're also going to change it to desired. Alright, and in that size box you're going to add a button, and you could add an image here, or you could just use the you know, the button image. I went ahead and added an image, but using the button images, you know, you still do the same thing. Alright, so size box 150, 150, button, and image. And you know, make sure you change the screen to desired. Alright, now before we leave here, let's do a few things. Let's add a an index and current weapon, which is going to be weapon base, and also get a reference to our player here. Alright, now we're also going to have to get material struct here. So for this, let's go ahead and create that. So let's go and struct here. I already have one created. So let's go into material struct here. And let's see what we have. So first we have material, or materials, should be materials because it's an array, and that's going to hold all the materials that, you know, you can switch on that weapon. And texture image, which is the texture 2D image, is going to be pretty much a display image that's going to display on, you know, the button of, you know, what the material looks like. And material index here is going to be pretty much the main the main slot index for your weapon. So you know, the pretty much the body of the weapon that you could change the material on. So and then master material, which is pretty much, you know, just a reference to your master material. This is a just in case thing here, but you know, you can add it or not add it. Yep. And that material structure, you're also going to want to add it to the weapon, your weapon struct, and I call it color change, but you know, you could call it material change, whatever you want to call it, and it's going to be the material struct here. Alright, and as you can see in my weapon data, say my let's go to my KAC. I have my color change, and these are all the materials from the material array that the weapon can change. And you know, these are pretty much just a visual of what the materials look like, and this is going to be in our button. And material index, so the main index for this weapon is 1. You know, some weapons have it at 0, like this one, and this just pretty much helps. So whenever you click on the button, your button here to change the color or to change the material, it always makes sure you're on the first material you're changing is the main base material on the weapon, like, you know, the body of the weapon or whatever it is. Okay, so let's go back to our material struct here. These are all the things you need. Make sure you add it to your weapon, and then here in the color widget, you added the material struct. Okay, so you should have your material struct, your current weapon, and your current index, and also a reference to your player. So go ahead and have your player reference there. Alright, now before we get out of here, we just want to get everything out the way first. So you know, when we come back, we could just go ahead and, you know, add our logic. So get selected material, and this is just going to get the material that, you know, whichever material you select, it's just going to get that. So we're going to get the material struct, we're going to split it, so grab it out, and you know, break, and just drag out for get, and the material we're going to get is the current selected index. So whichever material is in that index, that's the one we're going to get, and we're just going to return it here. And our main material index, we're going to drag it out too. So we're going to get the material here, and then we're going to add it to our main material index, and then, you know, we can start changing the colors and stuff like that. So this is the get material macro. This is just a little helper thing here. All right, you also have the get current weapon. I don't think we need this yet, but maybe later on we're going to need it, so let's just go ahead and create it. Sorry. Alright, and that's just getting our weapon data from our weapon. And then get customization widget. This one we like, so we're gonna it's gonna get our player reference and get the customization widget from there, and just add it as the output. Alright, now that that's done, let's take a break and go on from here. Back again from trying to avoid a crash. Alright, so let's get back into it. After we're done with that, let's go in here and try to get some of these stuff working. Alright, so the first thing you might want to do is this change color button that you created. You might want to get that working. Alright, so get the button. Okay, then the on click event, I'm just going to go to mines, and on click we're going to do the widget switcher, and we're going to switch to 4 because that's where our new canvas panel for our material widget is. Alright, now this right here we're going to create, so let's go ahead and redo this right here. So let's get a custom event. We're going to call this create materials, or let's say get materials. All right, and let's get another custom. This one we're going to call get current materials. Let's just add it there. Okay. Now this, what we're going to do is we're going to get all the current materials for this current weapon and just add them all in this scroll box here. Alright, so first thing, let's get the scroll box. The first thing we're going to do is clear it, make sure it's empty. Alright, once it's empty, let's get our current weapon. Our current preview weapon. And get the weapon data. And let's break it. And what we want is the material struct that we created. So like I said earlier, mine's called color change. So let's get these back here. Alright, so once we got that, what we need is to get all the materials. So we get a for each loop on that array. Alright, and for each material there, what we want to do is drag out and create widget, and the widget we want to create is our material widget, which mine is called color widget. But let's get that, and we want to get the index added there, and we also want to get this material struct and add it in there. Also, our current weapon. I'm going to put it in there, and you could avoid, I don't think you guys have these there in yours, but if you did copy them, you could just avoid them for now. Alright, once that is done, we are going to grab our scroll box. This will be our color scroll box here. Then we're going to add child. So we're going to add that material widget. So all the materials that's on this weapon that we could add to this weapon, we're going to grab all of them, and then we're just going to add them to our scroll box. So you have, a few of them, and we're going to send the current material struct over to our color widget here, which we use to grab, our materials here. Okay. All right. Now, if you haven't already done so, you want to go ahead and call this get materials from this change color button here. So when you click on that button, remember, we do our widget switcher to switch to that widget, and then instead of having this, we will just go and call our get materials function that we created down there, and it's going to have these two things, which are these. So once you click that button, it's going to get all the materials, and then once you got all the materials, it's going to get the current material that's on there on your weapon, and it's going to get all the slots that you could change. Okay. Now we still gotta go create this thing here, and we gotta go into our base weapon, create a few functions, and to get everything working. Okay, so for now you could go ahead and add the click event for this, and I guess if you duplicated this widget from your material widget here, you should already have these macros. So you just go ahead and grab this and grab your index, and let's go over to our base weapon to go create this variable. And this variable here is whenever you click one of the slots, it's just going to change this variable to that index, that slot. So whenever you start changing color, it will know which slot on the weapon and start changing the color. Alright, so let's go into our weapon, our base weapon, and the first two variables that we're going to want to create is the current material index and current material. So create those two for now. Okay, and once you've done that, you can just go over back to our material parts and just set that to the index. Okay, and for the image here, I mean, you don't really have to have an image, it's just going to be the slot. You could always you know, add like a text here that says slot 0, slot 1, or whatever the case, but you know, just leaving that. And the image for this one, remember, we're going to want to have the material image here, or you know, just something to show the material. So what we're going to do is go ahead and create a binding for it, and then that we're just going to get our material struct here, grab it, and get our texture image. Okay, get the texture image. Then we want to drag out and get. We're just going to get a one out of there, and the one we're going to get is the current index, which is pretty much going to be the same index for our you know, whatever material that we have. So if we go ahead and take a look at let's go to our weapon data here. Okay, so at index 0, you know, we have this yellow material here, and this image here is just going to display and let, you know, the player know, yeah, you're going to be choosing this yellow material index. So they're both lined up at the same index, so whenever we call this index, we're going to be getting the same index as the one from that material. So set the current material index there. Now in our base weapon, we're going to be creating a few things. Okay, and it's going to be all of these things here. So one, we're going to do a random color. You know, as you can see, I have 1, 2, and I guess another set here that I did again from my past tutorials, but we're just going to go over them one more time. So let's do this. So this one right here is for the random color button. Okay, so what this is, whenever you, let's go back over here, hit this random color button, it's going to call that function. Right, so let's go over what this does here. So what this does here is get our weapon skeleton, okay, and then it creates a dynamic material from the material that's on there, and that material is going to be our current material, and the index is going to be our current material index that we set. Okay, and then it's just gonna drag out from that material instance, and then it's gonna set the vector value, and the vector means the color. Let's break off here. As you can see, the value is, you know, a color value. And what we did here is just break off from that color value and get the RGB and alpha channel, and just add random floats. And the random floats are from 0 to 1. Okay, so we'll go ahead and we'll just let you guys look at this. So that's for the random color. Now if you want, you could just go ahead after creating that to the button and the color button, and hit this. Actually, I have a change color button here. So mine is the change color. Okay, so you would just go grab your current preview weapon from here, and then you would just hit the random colors. As you can see, this one is just mine's something else, but you just do random colors, right? And that should work. You just get rid of this. Alright, so let's just test that out and see what happens. There you go, random colors. And as you can see here, you know, these are all the different slots. That's the front, and I think slot 2 is for back. Oh, and you know, the different materials. Okay. All right. Now that you're done with that button, for the red, green, and blue sliders. Now let's get back into our current weapon and create a custom event. We're going to call this blue. Alright, I'm calling this blue because I already have a red channel there. And, you know, like I said, I also have a few of them here already. But, yeah, let's... And here again, we're going to do the same thing. Grab, and then we're going to create dynamic instance, the current material, and the current index. Okay. And for this one, what we do here is first we get vector. We're going to get the current material red channel, or the color. We're going to get the current color first, and then we're going to get the we're going to break this out. And what we want to change here is the blue channel. Okay. And let's not forget to let's add an input here. Let's call this value. That should be a float. Okay. Now let's drag out from this value here. We're going to say plus float, and we're going to add it to our loop. So whatever this slider value is going to be, we're going to add it to our current blue channel that's on our material color. And then we're gonna, let's drag out again and set vector. Okay, and let's break out this color. Let's add it to the blue, and let's connect the rest of them. As a matter of fact, let's make this alpha 1, so it's always going to be 1. And one more thing that I forgot is the parameters. So the parameter I have here for my material color is base color, And in a second I'm gonna go over the material so you guys can see what's happening. So base color. Okay, so I want to change the color of the material, so I have a parameter on this material instance that's called base color that allows me to change the color. And right here I'm getting the current color that's on there, and I'm adding to the blue channel from this value here that I'm going to be getting from the slider. Okay, and then I'm setting the base color value to the new blue channel. I also want to do this for the red channel, the same thing. You can just pretty much copy and paste and just change the variable red, blue, and then do the same for a green channel. Or this will be a green channel. Green channel will be value plus green, and add the green there, and that should be it. And all of these we will go over to our sliders. So our red, green, and blue slider, we just go down to the value and get the current weapon, and then for each value for our blue slider, we're gonna get our current weapon and get our blue event, which is the one we just created down here. And we're going to set the value to the slider value. Okay. Alright. So that should cover the sliders. Now, one more thing we're gonna add here is a custom event called set current sliders. So what this does is it gets the current value, color value, and then set the sliders to that value. All right. For now, you can go ahead and get the vector, but what I have here is a new color value, and this new color value is pretty much when I save my color. Let's just go ahead and take a look at it. My color is supposed to stay the same. Okay. Oh, it's okay. So it's not staying the same, but because I don't have took away the save function, but I do have a save function that saved the color that I changed, and returns it to this value here. And every time I call this function, it gets me the new color and just adds it there. But for now, we could just go ahead and stick that in there, and we're just going to get the current color from whatever color our weapon is at the time. It doesn't matter if we change it or not. And it's going to be a material instance here, and from that material instance we're going to get the vector value, and that's going to be base color. And for each of our sliders we have here, as you can see, I have the names here, red, green, and blue, and we're going to set the value from this color value here. Okay, I'm just going to stick that back in there because I have something different here. So I think this is where messed up at. Okay. Show you the create color widget. Okay. Pass. Okay. All right. One more thing before we move on. We do need to go down here and do some things. So I don't know if we already created these, but let's go ahead and we're going to give a function or an event. We're going to create an event called, create material instance, or you could call it get material instance. And what we're going to do is get our current weapon. And remember, we did create a current weapon here, and this is in our material widget. So we're going to get our current weapon, get the weapon skeleton mesh, and then we're going to set the material. Okay, and the material we're going to set it to, we're just going to grab our get selected material and we're going to add them there. We're going to add the material index, whichever material index it is, and whichever material it's selected. Okay, and after we do that, we also want to grab our current weapon again, and then we're going to set those materials to the new material. And we could have just skipped this and do all of that inside of the weapons blueprint, but since we're already here, we already got this here, we're going to do this. And what this does is it sets these material and the index, so when we go into our current weapon and we create that dynamic material, we're actually creating a dynamic material of the material that we passed in here and the index that we pass through. And then it comes out here and it creates that material instance that has the base color. And I said, so let's go. It's all right. And once you create this function, we're just gonna, on that button click, on this button click here, we're just gonna call that, create material or get material, whatever that this function here is called. So, and this is our material widget, the first widget we created. Okay. And once that is done, that should be it. You should definitely now. Okay, so for the pattern button, okay, I did mention that some of my materials, you could change the pattern. So let's go over here. Let's go over to our current weapon and create this pattern. And this one is pretty simple. So we create a custom event with a value input. We go back and we create our dynamic material from our current material index and our current material. Okay, and when we drag out, this time we want to set scalar value. Okay, set scalar parameter value. And the value we're going to be changing, the parameter name, is called pattern tiling, and that's on the material that we're going to be working with. And I'm going to go through the material with you guys in a second, as I said. Okay, and the value is going to be coming from our slider value. Okay, so now when we go back to our slider here and we click the on value change, we could just get our current weapon and get pattern size, or whatever you call that variable, and stick the value in there. Okay, now this little guy right here, you would want to call this guy, I would say, because you're gonna use that a few times. Okay, so you would probably call it where did I create? Okay, here we go. So you do your random colors. I would say you go ahead and call it here. Right at your random colors here. We probably should wrap this in a macro. Do we call this set current? Okay. And this should change the slider for that value, for that material. So whatever color this material is now, it's just gonna go ahead and set the slider value here. Okay. If I was to, drag this here, that's what pretty much that would do. Okay. All right. So, I think that is all you guys need to get going for the color. And now that that's done, I think we could go ahead and see how that works out. Okay. Change color, and these are all the materials that's one for this weapon. You see. Now let's hit the random button here. As you can see, the slider changes. And should be able to switch the and for our slots here, switch that slot back to the second slot. These, I don't know which part of the weapon that changes. I don't see anything, but yeah. And and yeah, I think we should be able to. Same thing here. And also go ahead and now for the attachment, you could also have a second color screen for those. You know, you could pretty much just go ahead and duplicate this color screen for the attachment. Yeah, but yeah, you have all the attachments on here. And there you go. Let's see, so right now I'm saving the material, one of the index on the material and not the color, because I'm actually just getting you know, back the base color here that we got, you know, instead of my my new color variable. So it's just gonna get back the main one. But like I said, as you can see, oh sorry, same thing here. No, you could add your attachments. And you know, this one, see the pattern size here. And there you go. And like I said, you know, right now my saving is just saving one material and one index on the material or on the weapon. So yeah, and we're gonna be moving over to you know, saving these attachments so they could pop back up here as they are now and pop back there. So I think I could finish those tutorials, you know, that I, you know, started and stopped to make this one. So all right.